right, welcome to day 2 of Notes for Intermediate Algebra, SOHCAHTOA, very mini unit. We're only doing 3 days worth of notes, then a quick review and quiz right before you get your final review. Well, obviously you already have your final review because it is in your packet, so we can be working on that as well. But this is day 2 of notes. Today, need a calculator for sure. Need this. We are going to be doing solving angles. Day 1, we found missing sides using SOHCAHTOA. Today, we're going to solve for angles. So we're going to have the sides. We're now going to find the angle that is associated with each of those. We're still using the concepts of SOHCAHTOA. So that does not go away. We're just going to do something what we call the inverse of that, okay? And I'll show you here in just a second. So here we go. Vocabulary terms at the top. It says inverse tangent. If the tangent of angle A is equal to the x, then tangent to -1, what we call the inverse, must be equal to the measure of angle A. Okay, the inverse. Now how do we do that? Well, in our calculator, we're going to hit second. And then we're going to hit the tan budget, or the tan button, not budget, but button. And as you look at this, I'm going to get right here, up here close, nice and easy. You can see the tangent budget right there, or tangent button. Kind of, for some reason I can't say button today. The tangent button right there. Once I hit second and hit that same button, let me get this cleared out. For some reason I got some funky stuff going on. Second, tan. Notice that it pops up with the tangent with the -1 right up there. That is our inverse, right? That's what we want to see when we're finding the measure of an angle. All right? As we do this, the inverse of sine is the same idea. Same idea. We're just going to hit the second and the sine button. And then if I want to do for the inverse of cosine, I do the same idea. So the second cosine. So to sum it up, kind of to sum up this idea right here, we are going to, if you're finding the sine, you use SOHCAHTOA. If we're finding an angle, you use the inverse. The inverses of SOHCAHTOA, right? We're going to use the inverse of those, okay? So the inverse of SOHCAHTOA. All right, let's do a few. Here we go, approximate the measure of angle A. So we want to approximate the measure of angle A to the nearest tenth of a degree using the inverse functions. Lots of keywords in the instructions. Remember, in math, our instructions really lead us. They guide us to which direction we want to go. We don't have to guess. So, sine of A is equal to 0.36. So if I want to find the measure of this angle, the measure of angle A, which is what it gave me in the directions, I'm going to find sine of -1 of 0.36. 0.36. So, second sine 0.36, close parentheses, 0.368, 0.368. Now, I bet you, once again, for some reason, my calculator is in radians again. Make sure we switch it over to degrees. Make sure your calculator's in degrees, okay? Here we go. Boom. We are good. Let's do it again. Second sine -1 of 0.36 should give me, yes, 21.1. I knew something was wrong. I knew something was wrong when it was giving me a 0.36. That's not an angle, right? We're not going to have an angle less than 1 degree. So I needed something that was going to be degree worthy, which would have been 21.1. So I know this, the measure of angle A for the first one is 21.1. Let's look at the next one. If I want to find the measure of this angle A, I'm going to take the inverse of tangent of 5 divided by 8. Well, inverse of tangent 5 divided by 8, and that is 32 degrees. 32 degrees. All right, let's do the next one. Cosine of A of 0.35, so to find the measure of A, angle A is going to be equal to the inverse of cosine of 0.35. So A is going to be equal to 0.35, 69.51, 69.51, and that is degrees. Remember, all of these are degrees. All right, the measure of angle A is going to be equal to the inverse of tangent of 0.42. So the measure of angle A is going to be 22.78, 22.78 or 22.8 degrees. I do want to do to the nearest tenth. So nearest tenth, so 22.8. The next one, I'll do change colors. The measure of angle A is going to be the inverse of sine of 7/10. Remember, all we're doing is practicing putting this in the calculator. We're actually going to solve for them here in a second. So here we go. Second, sine 7 divided by 10, close the parentheses. The measure of angle A is going to be 4 degrees, 44.4 degrees. And then last but not least, cosine of A is equal to, I wrote over it, so I'm going to look at it real quick, 4/5, 4/5. So the measure of angle A is going to be the inverse of cosine of 4 divided by 5. Here we go. Second cosine, 4 divided by 5. I've got the measure of angle A is equal to 36.9. And that is degrees. All right. You should be able to get all this the same way. Just making sure we plug it into the calculator. You can see that I'm doing it with you. All of mine are still listed for you. All right. Let's move on and solve some of these. So here we go. Approximate the measure of angle A. So we're going to find the measure of A to the nearest tenth of a degree. That's what we're looking for. All right. Well, if I'm looking at the measure of angle A, this is the angle that I want right here. This one. Well, what do I have? Well, I've got an adjacent to angle A. I've got an opposite side. Well, adjacent and opposite. Which of the three I can't speak. Which of the SOHCAHTOAs do we want to use? So, CUT, or TOA? Well, that's correct. It should be TOA. It should be TOA. So here we go. Tangent of A is going to be equal to 14/4. That's how I would originally write it, correct? But I want to find the measure of that angle, so I want to take the inverse of this. So the measure of angle A is going to be the inverse of tangent of 14 divided by 4. So the measure of angle A is going to be equal to second tangent 14 divided by 4. 74.05. So 74.05. So what is that going to be? 74.1 degrees. All right. Next one. I'm still looking for approximate the measure of angle A, so I'm still looking at this angle right here. This one right here. Now as I look at this, what do I have? Well, I have an adjacent again, and I have a hypotenuse. Well, which one has an adjacent and an hypotenuse? That's right, CA, which is cosine. So cosine of A is equal to adjacent 7 divided by 12. But remember, I want the measure of the angle, so I got to do the inverse. So the measure of angle A is going to be equal to the inverse of cosine of 7 divided by 12. The inverse of cosine, 7 divided by 12. And that should be the measure of angle A is equal to 54.3 degrees. All right. Hopefully you're understanding this. We're about 10 minutes in. We'll be finishing about 14 minutes total. We're about 10:30 in. All right? Here we go. Still looking for the approximate measure of angle A. Still looking for the nearest tenth. Well, angle A is up here. So I'm looking for this angle right there. Well, I've got an opposite. I've got a hypotenuse. Opposite hypotenuse. That's going to be a SO. So sine of angle A is equal to 5 divided by 11. Well, I want the inverse of that. I want the measure of that angle. So measure of angle A is going to be equal to the inverse of sine of 5 divided by 11. So measure of angle A is equal to 5 divided by 11. Should be 27 point, now that's really 0. So 27.0 degrees. All right, so just 27 degrees, right? Last one. Measure of angle A to the nearest tenth. That's the one I want. This one I have an opposite over here and an adjacent, because this is my hypotenuse. So opposite and adjacent, that is going to be a TOA. So the tangent of angle A is equal to opposite 10 over adjacent 22. So find the measure of angle A is equal to the inverse of tangent of 10 divided by 22. Put that in the calculator. Second tangent gives me the inverse. 10 divided by 22 is equal to, the measure of angle A is equal to 24.4 degrees. All right, this has been day 2 notes. It is a normal day. It's a 7-hour day. So we're about 50 minutes for class time. Should be about 17, 18 minutes into class already. Once again, there are 36 problems on there. Too many for you. I just want you to do the odds or the evens. Does not matter which one you do. I want odds or evens. Odds or evens. Plenty of time to get it done in class. This is your daily practice. I will see you on Wednesday. All right. Have a great day.